In progress. Recording in progress.
Ready? Are you ready for this, huh? So, let's see if I'm in the right spot. I am not. I don't want you all to see the whole presentation on me, giving it all away. All right, here we go. Present. So we are getting started. Hello, everyone. Turn my camera on. There we go. Now you can see me. Of course, we always look better in photos, right? No, I don't have any makeup on today. Well, it's one of those days. It's a Wednesday, right? All right, so we are waiting for people to jump on. This is a live training in our Facebook group. However, you can always catch the replay. Okay, so you can always catch that replay. So as we are starting, please say hello in the comments. I want to see those comments coming through. And I would love to answer your questions while we are talking about selling through story. So very excited to be presenting this tonight. I'm just checking in on a couple of things, making sure we've got the time right and everything. So welcome. Welcome. I am Izzy Nally. I'll introduce myself here in a moment. So why do we need to sell through story? Have you ever tried to sell something? Right? Most people just struggle with sales. Selling can feel icky because often we think, oh, well, I'm gonna have to sell and push it on them. But how can we sell without being pushy? How can we explain what we do in a way that doesn't feel salesy? And selling through story is exactly how we are going to do that. So welcome. Let's get started. So first, let's just start with a question. Is your message clear and simple? And you may just say yes or no. Or you may have that on a scale. So I say rate it on a scale of 1, meaning nope, my message is not clear. It's not simple at all whatsoever. 10 being like, yes, it's spot on. And I say rate because you might feel like I have one, but I'm not really sure about it. Or I feel like it could be clearer. So go ahead and type that in. You can, of course, you can always do a yes or no. Is your message clear and simple? But you can also rate it. So I'm really curious on those ratings. Let's see what those confidence levels are on how clear and simple your message is. And I'm going to talk about exactly why, but I'm also going to get into how. So what we're going over in this session today is we're talking about, of course, the problem, like the problem of selling. But we're also going to be talking about how we convert through story. And we're going to get into a story, into the story brand, and how the brain works. And then what is that story framework? So I'm going to teach you the framework to create your story. So you will want to make sure that you have a notebook of some type. And even these questions that I'll be asking throughout the session, write those questions down and give yourself a rating because I'm really curious where you're going to be after this session. So let's go back real quick and look at this. Write this question down. Is your message clear and simple? So rating yours, so write clear and simple message and then rate it and make sure you write that down too. All right. So who is this for? This is for the coach, the consultant, the service provider, anybody that's in product sales and travel agents. You're probably most of the time when you sit down to do your marketing and planning and thinking about getting more sales, we're probably really concerned. So whether you're selling a product, whether you're selling a service, no matter what you're selling, story is the way to sell. It's not going to not work for anyone. Okay. So I'm curious to see, who are you? What do you do? And what are you selling? What are you selling? So who are you? Say hi, say who you are, and then let us know what it is that you're selling. Are you selling a service? Are you selling a package? What is it exactly that you are selling? All right. So that problem, you probably find yourself, you're chasing the freebies because you're trying to seek clarity. You're trying to figure out what you're selling and how to sell it and how to word it. Maybe you have a packaged up program, but you still don't feel very confident in what that program is and who it's for. And if you do, it's all in your head and you haven't written it down really because you're just still not sure. Maybe you're trying to get those qualified leads, I should say leads. Maybe you found that people really don't know what you do or what you're selling. You might find yourself starting over and over again. I've definitely found myself doing this in the past. And I'm saying all of these things because I've been here. I've had these problems. You don't know what to talk about when you're getting ready to do a live or to have a weekly consistent live as well. You're not really sure what you're going to talk about. And then maybe you're like, I want to have a webinar and be able to convert people, but I'm not sure what I should have that webinar on in order to convert them. So this selling through story is the first part of our training on webinars that convert. This is a more in-depth dive because I find more and more people, they're still searching for so much clarity. And so this is really going to lay that foundation of the clarity and how to get it. So who wants more clarity? Okay, so I'm Izzy Nally. As I mentioned, I've been here, I've done that. I have an MBA. I work as a business development specialist and business strategic consultant as well. And then I also do marketing. So marketing should be in alignment with everything that your business does. So if you cannot clearly articulate what it is your business does and who it helps, and you don't have a growth strategy put in place, you don't know how to get the leads. You don't know how to nurture the leads. You don't know how to convert the leads and to keep growing business. And then scaling is different than growth. Okay, so I work as a corporate consultant. That's where I help with that strategy, that development. I also am a business owner. As I mentioned, I've been through this, I've done this. So Izzy Nally Consulting is actually, I'm going to say, my second business. My first one, I taught mindfulness and yoga and a lot of the health and wellness. And it was very eye-opening. And in the midst of that, I ended up going back and getting the MBA so that I could figure out how to really market my business. Now, what I found was the MBA was not the end all answer. I ended up having to get coaches and figure out these problems. And what I kept finding was what I was really missing was what I'm going to teach you today. I was missing that in my business, and other coaches weren't diving through that in a way that made sense for me. They kept telling me, oh, well, here's the problem, here's the solution, sell it. But there were these other components that were really missing in how I was talking about my business and positioning it. And what I'm going to teach you today is a really easy way of looking at how we are going to solve this problem of just not feeling clear in your business, because you might be like, well, yeah, this is a great product, or it could be a great product, and all this wish-washiness that just keeps happening in our brain. And one of the things that I did in that process too, I was also becoming a hypnotherapist while I was doing my MBA. Don't even get me started on my problem with seeking knowledge. So I'm here. I'm here to help you. Uh, I know how it is when you're just constantly seeking that validation. You're constantly seeking, trying to fix the problem because you are craving that success. You know that you are right there, that it is so possible. You just can't figure out what that key is that unlocks everything. This is what we're doing today. Okay. So, clear message. I cannot stress that enough. So people buy products when they read words that make them want to buy. Your messaging So we just did in our previous training, we did copy that converts. So your messaging, your copy. And what happens is we're always trying to create this copy, but we don't have a brand story that we keep coming back to. And yes, you can have your avatar and you're saying like what they went through, but you can have the avatar, but if you don't have the story to go along with it that really solidifies, that helps everything make sense. And I'm going to show you here in just a moment. We're going to go over how the brain really decides and what the brain really needs to hear. Okay. So this problem of like we're just constantly spending time or money on our marketing. We're racking our brains and we're spending so much time on the marketing that we're not allowing ourselves to spend time in the business creating content that is actually like supporting our customers. We're not being able to spend that time to scale the business, right? I had this problem all the time and I still have to keep coming back to it and addressing this because there's working in your business and then there's working on your business. And most of the time we get so busy working in our business that we don't work on it. So this is your time that you have to work on your business. Otherwise, you are just working hourly, and typically we can work less than what we could at another job. And we find ourselves, if we get stuck in the working in our business, we get working more and we're working more and we're working more and we're working all the time. And then we don't want any more clients because we're just so burnt out that we want to go get a regular job and not our business, right? Who's been there? You're just burnt out. You have to make time to work on the business. So there's that 80-20 rule. And a lot of times people are doing I'm working in my business 80%, I'm working on it 20, and the 20 gets less and less and less. What really should be happening, and this varies for some businesses, of course, but we should really be like that 20% strategy can make 80% happen. And you work more with me, I'll explain that more, like putting the automations into place, really creating the strategy and not finding yourself in that constant cycle of repeat, 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 where you're like starting over again and you don't remember what this was and what that was. So businesses avoid marketing. So the other people I hear is they're like, I don't do marketing because I don't really know what to do. I don't know what my message is. And then there's that marketing that looks good, but doesn't sell. Have you ever created your own website? You weren't really sure what to put on it. You put a bunch of stuff on it and it might have looked good, but it still didn't get you any sales. I see people do that all the time. They spend money on a website. And if someone that's not trained in story and making this all clear and really message and copy that converts, you'll get a website that looks really good, but it doesn't really sell. It's just a placeholder. It's just to look professional and that's it. But your website can sell. So how do we decide to buy? Who wants to know? Question time, survey time, okay? So can your customers name the main problem that you solve? I had this problem for a while. When someone would ask, what do? You'd be like, well, or I do a lot. Don't start with that. Don't. Okay. So if a customer or potential customer cannot say, oh, Izzy, she helps calm the chaos and create more clarity in your business so it can grow and scale. She helps people that are just spinning in circles. She helps people get the clarity they need so they can scale with simplicity. I want people to be able to talk about what I do. And if I cannot talk about what I do, then they can't talk about what I do. So what problem do you solve? I help people who are stuck in their business. They have plateaued or they have just hit a roadblock and they're not sure what to do next. That's what I do. They want to make something happen, but they don't know how to make it happen. All right. So how can your customers name the main problem that you solve? Yes or no, scale of 1 to 10. Okay, type it in the chat. All right, converting. This is what we really want, right? We want people to buy, but we need to understand why they buy. So people don't buy the best products and services. Can you believe that? They don't buy the best. So do they buy the generic? No, that's not even the case either. They buy if it's a solution to their problem. We might buy some off the wall stuff, right? Like we might buy something and it's not necessarily the absolute best product that's out there. It's whoever presented it in a compelling way. So I ask you, how do you buy? Because it's a really important thing to understand. And we're going to dive into that. I am going to show you exactly what you need to put into your story. But first, we have to understand this. So when you buy, do you just see something really cool and then you just buy it? Sometimes we buy because it seems like the value is really high and the cost is really low. It sounds like a solution to a problem that we have. Sometimes we don't know that we have the problem, so we have to show them that it really truly is a problem. For example, right? If you just keep freebie searching and you do not iron out your story, you do not iron out your brand story, if you do not iron out, clearly articulate your message, then you are just going to keep spinning. You're just going to keep spinning. And you will get a little bit closer and get a little bit closer, but it could be 2, 3, 4 years, or it ends up in you having to go back to a 9 to 5, or maybe you're in that state where you never get to leave your 9 to 5. I don't want you to be there. I want you to have the success in your business and be able to accomplish all the goals and the reasons why you started your own business. Maybe it's that you want more time, and don't spend all your time running in circles trying to sell something that you don't really know truly what it is you're selling. And then you need to articulate why they need it and what it'll do for them. Now, sometimes this seems like it would be super obvious, but we have to state it. So why do you need it? As I just told you, you're going to be spinning in circles. You're going to end up having to go back because people aren't going to know what you sell because you can't articulate it well. And you can't articulate it in a way that they need. They also need to know what it's going to do for them. So how's their life going to transform? They might not know what good looks like. So you need to explain to them what is going to change. And they need to know that it's going to be a positive change and that you're going to help them easily get there, because change registers as pain in our brain. So the saying is, if you confuse, you lose. If it's too confusing for you, it's definitely going to be too confusing for them. So here it is. Here's why people buy and what you need to focus on. And then we're going to get into the story brand framework as well. So one huge reason that people buy is because the brain is wired to survive or thrive. To survive or thrive. So the goal is to keep you alive. That's what your brain's trying to do. Good, right? And then if you are surviving, then it wants to do better. It wants to thrive. It wants this amazing life. And this might make sense in how we daydream. We daydream about all the worries that we need to do to survive. We daydream about this amazing life that we can have and these dreams, right? Those are generally the two things. On the other side of it, our brain is also trying to conserve energy. So your brain is always looking, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? And if a story gets too confusing, the brain goes, this is too hard to follow. This is too much work, right? And then you start tuning out. You start thinking about other things. You try to find a distraction. And the brain knows, right? Like we went to school, or we've sat and listened to a lecture, and you're sitting there going, oh my gosh, when are they going to get to the point? Right? Or you start getting so tired because it's just mentally exhausting. Have you been in one of those? So They need to know what's in it for me. Your brain is always looking for the fastest way. That's why we're always looking for get rich quick schemes. There we go. Get rich quick schemes. We're always looking for those. We're always looking for the fastest way to do something or the most efficient way to do something. We're always looking for optimizing. Now, the funny part is, right? Then we end up procrastinating. But why are we procrastinating? Because whatever we're supposed to do doesn't feel simple enough. It doesn't feel clear enough. It doesn't feel doable enough. It feels like a challenge, and our brain's going, "Ooh, that seems like a lot of work. You know what's easier? Let's just sit here. Let's just sit here and survive. We're surviving. We don't need to do that." So, therefore, thriving, the path to thriving, needs to be easy or it needs to be clear or both. So, does this make sense? So then I ask you, and I'm sure I have a question slide for this too, but you know, which one are you doing? Are you doing one or the other? Because you need to be doing both. You need to show them how they're going to survive or thrive. And then you also need to do it in a way that is not overly confusing, that is direct to the point, that is giving them all the information that they need. So I'm going to do that for you today. All right. So is the message that you are communicating on how to survive or thrive? It can be one or both of those. Put in a scale of 1 to 10. Are you doing this? Are you giving a message of survive or thrive? All right. So a great metaphor of when you start going all over the place with your story, and that's why it's so important to iron out your story brand. Because if your story is all over the place and it's not getting to the point that you need to give them, then it's like, and let me like bowling ball over here. It's like handing them a bowling ball. So you're at one point in the story and they're like, okay, and they're trying to figure it out, and you just handed them a bowling ball. And then you're getting to another part of the story and it's kind of it's a little heavy, and their brain's trying to figure out like, where the hell is this going? Here's another bowling ball. And if we get to a spot that's completely has nothing to do with anything, it's not relatable to the target audience. Imagine you covered the bowling ball in olive oil and handed it to them. They are overwhelmed and their brain is starting to shut down. They're going to keep listening and then they're going to go to their phone. They're going to keep listening and then maybe they exit out. So I say this because a lot of times people create these story brands for their business, and it's how I started my business, the history of my business. But if that does not pertain to your target audience, your client, then it's like handing them a bowling ball. The same thing when we talked about the brain wants efficiency. So when you start out, well, I do a lot. The brain goes, oh, maybe we don't want to hear this. This is going to be a lot. Or it's complicated. Oh, this is going to be a lot. So overall, the clearest communicator is who is going to win the sale. Okay, that's going to be who sells. So anytime you can introduce yourself and you can start a story as an opportunity to invite them into a story. And we'll explain that more. All right. So your business needs a story. You need to invite your customer into the story to let them know what is possible. Now, I often talk about having a mission, having a bigger mission, and inviting them in to that mission with you. Now, your story can be multifaceted and layered, but don't allow it to be until you get the simple points down. The simple points. All right, who's ready? The power of story. So, why story sells? Daydreaming is a survival mechanism. We wake them up with stories. So a captivating story formula is what we're going to go through. Every story, and maybe you remember this, have to write a story in school. There's, the peak and then the come down, right? Like, how is our curve? What curve are we creating? When really a story looks like this, it's more of a wave, right? Because the person in the story is having to change. Stories are engraved in our brain. How many stories, childhood stories, do you remember? When people tell a good story, we remember. But they're engraved in our brain because that was how we transferred knowledge back in the day, with stories. You know, we look at the Bible is full of stories. Any ancient text is full of stories to communicate a message, to communicate values. So I ask you, what's your favorite story? First of all, what is your favorite story? It's the universal language. If we put up characters in a challenge and maybe there's like a bridge someone's trying to cross, everyone, no matter the language, would understand it. So we're going to create a story, and then we're going to position your service or your product within that story. Here we go. Everybody's got their notebooks, right? You got your notebooks. So first and foremost, who's the character? Who is the character? Why or what do they want? Not what, why do they want? What do they want? What is their dream? What is their aspiration? What have they been daydreaming about? What's their thrive life? Maybe it's escaping survival. Maybe it's something that they want to accomplish. And and then when we're listening to a story, So I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, we would like sit and we were waiting or something. There was always these like audio stories, right, on the radio, but they were on the radio. And you're always wondering, like, oh, there's this person, they want this. Are they going to get to it? Are they going to get it? Are they going to get what they want? This person that's daydreaming, person has a goal, that has a vision, or maybe that's in a situation that they don't like. I'm going to give you an example. But what is it that they want, and are they going to get it? So define what they want. The next thing is the problem. So generally, there's something that they want, but there's some type of obstacle that's in their way. So there's something that they want, and either, a storm comes and now they have to figure out how to get through the storm, or, a challenge has been placed in front of them. Something has happened, or something is blocking them from getting what they want, and they're going to have to overcome this challenge. Now, this is where I want to introduce, and maybe you've heard this, maybe you haven't, but the client is the hero. I didn't know what that meant for a long time. So let me explain what that means. So the client as the hero, meaning, okay, here's the character, they're this hero. Let's say it is Spider-Man. Okay. The problem is he keeps seeing all of this crime and he's trying to escape having his identity revealed. Okay. But what is it that he truly wants? He really wants the girl. And now being Spider-Man is now also part of the problem. So this is a character, right, who has a problem. His problem is he wants the girl. But his problem is that he's also Spider-Man, right? So how are we going to overcome that? So thinking about your character and what they want, and is the problem suddenly been placed in their lap, or is the problem there? So there's some type of challenge. Challenge is how we get stronger, right? A challenge creates change. So the hero does not mean that they're the one that's saving the day. Okay? They are doing amazing things. So I know you all are doing amazing things. You have an amazing product that you need to share with the world, that you need to help. You have problems that you need to solve for other people. And so you are the hero. You are the character in this story, that you're going to make something amazing happen. So how clear is the problem that you solve? The guide. This is where you come in. The guide has a plan. The guide understands the hero's story. It has a plan that's going to help them accomplish what they want. So let's take Star Wars, for example. Who's the guide? Yoda. Yoda is the guide, and Yoda has the training, the plan that is going to help the character get to where they need to be. Okay. So, question: how often do you repeat your same message about the problem you solve? How often do you repeat the same message about the problem you solve? And this is a problem because people need to hear this over and over again. They need to hear the same thing over and over again, right? Like I'm explaining the story to you, and I was talking about Spider-Man. Then I'm talking about Star Wars. And I can keep utilizing other examples and other stories, examples of the problem. You need to understand the problem that you solve, and you need to be able to keep talking about it over and over and over. This is how you become a thought leader. This is how you become a thought leader. So how do you become a thought leader? You repeat the same message. You're on the same topic over and over, and people are not getting tired of what you're talking about. In fact, you need to repeat it far more than you think, because they're only going to hear a small fraction of what you're actually talking about, because they're not going to see every single email and every single post and every single video, right? In fact, when I really love something that someone's trying to teach, I go find them on Instagram, I find them on Facebook, I find them on YouTube, and I want to keep hearing this message. Why? Because repeating it and hearing it over and over allows me to understand it more. So how often do you repeat the same message about the problem that you solve? Okay, so now we have the character, we have the challenge or the problem, we've introduced you as the guide in the plan, having the plan, and now there's a call to action. This is saying, this is kind of that, now's the time to change. Now's the time to change. We used to do this in coaching when I did my coaching certification way back in the day. There was a person and they want health, but there's a problem. The problem is that they smoke and they're really addicted to that smoking. But then the coach shows up and the coach has a plan to help them kick the habit. This call to action often is going, okay, they go to the doctor and the doctor says, there's a serious problem. Now is the time. There's an ultimatum, right? This call to action, you have to change. You have to change. Why? Maybe the call to action is that they're having a baby. Maybe the call to action is they're frustrated and there's something that they want and they just can't seem to have it. There's a call to action, and that call to action can be me fronting you and saying, wow, do you know all of the benefits and the risks? I'm inviting you now. Now, here's the problem, and I go into this in a lot of my other stuff that I teach, is you want to create an urgency. This is where you can start a program, and the program starts next week. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait 6 months to get it again. Or you're offering an early bird rate that is just irresistible, right? So creating some urgency can also create that call to action, and creating that call to action tells them this now, this is how, this is the easy route to do it. So when I'm calling you to action, I'm saying this full training program starts next week. I'm going to need you to sign up by commenting below saying, sign me up. And then I'm going to get with you. And then we're going to do a little DM chat and make sure that's the right fit for you. And then I'll send you all the stuff to get you registered. It'll be super easy, no worries, very seamless, opportunity to ask lots of questions. That call to action is there. Now, how often, this is really important because this is a big fail. I used to do this a lot, especially when I first started coaching. How often does your business position itself as the hero? Right? I would be like, I've got 26 certifications in health and fitness. I really do. And I've got this, and I've got this, and I've got this. And I am the one that's going to solve your problem. Versus saying, I'm the guide. I have a plan. I'm going to guide you through this. What's the big difference between the two of those? If I'm the hero, then all that weight is put on me. And this happens a lot in health and fitness, right? People get a personal trainer and then they expect that they only need to work out when they have the personal trainer and that the personal trainer is going to solve all their problems. And it's just going to, all you have to do is show up once a week. And this personal trainer is going to exercise all the weight off of you. And does that really work? No. The personal trainer is your guide. The personal trainer has a plan. If you don't have a plan, you need a plan to give to them and to guide them through the plan. Okay. All right. So last is that risk. And that's not last, but this is this big thing, because I guarantee if you can put in these 6 components, 7 components, that you will easily be able to talk about your product and put it into a story framework that will allow you to easily sell your product. Okay. So what's at risk? This is that consequence. This is the, if you work with me, this is what happens. And if you don't work with me, this is what happens. This is that if you quit smoking, this is what happens. If you don't quit smoking, this is what happens. This is the risk, the consequences, the urgency, even more of the urgency to do it now. This is reinforcing that call to action. All right. So do they know what the stakes are? If they don't do it, and if they do it. Have you articulated that? Because you're going to need that for your story. All right. So let's look at some key takeaways that we have here. So 1, you are not the hero. Okay. And I kind of explained that, right, with the personal training. So if you are the hero, all the weight's put on you, and I will tell you, you will feel like you're not successful in accomplishing their results, and they will feel like you're not successful in accomplishing their results. You're kind of the hero if you're doing a done for you service, but not really, right? Because you're doing it in order to help them continue doing what they do so that they can be successful in what they do. So you're not the hero. They are always the hero. The customer is always the hero. You are not the hero. So position yourself as a guide. I'm here to help guide you through this 5-step plan, through this 10-step plan, through this 6-month program. I'm here to guide you through your transformation. That allows them to have the responsibility that they need for the change, because they have to change, right? So, for example, I could say like, my story branding is going to solve all your problems. This is the answer. This is the plan. This is the plan for you to be able to succeed in your business. Okay. Define the problem. Your problem, right? Like, what problem are you really solving? And don't get it super complicated. Make it super simple and super clear. What is it that they really want? What is it that they want? What are they searching for? What are they daydreaming about? What are they praying for? That's the problem. That's the problem. And there's a problem that's in their way. And you really need to understand what that problem is. Maybe it's they want to accomplish this, but this problem's in their way. And so we need to address removing that obstacle or getting them over that obstacle. Okay. What's at stake? What's at stake? So if they go this route, what happens? If they go this route, what happens? You need to clearly articulate that. They might know it, but you have to articulate it. Okay. All right. So here's the big question. Here's the big question. Double check it. Are you ready to create a clear story? Are you ready to create a clear story that's going to make your business easier? That's going to make it so easy. This can be fun. This should be fun. I think it's fun. I would love to help you create your story. I think it's so much fun. And I don't want to do that for you, because you need to learn and you need to develop. It's the same thing as if I say, you have to do this. Or I'm saying, would you like to do this? If you give a kid, you talk to them and you tell them about health and then you let them make a healthy choice versus you're just like, no, you have to eat vegetables for dinner. We have to allow people to make choices. And when we provide a story, it's almost like you're giving them go, oh, you know what? That's like me. Oh, I bet I should do that. Can you help me do that? So we have to allow ourselves to invite our customers into the story. And we do that by making our business easier as well. Okay. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how ready are you to create a clear story that's going to make your business easier? Yeah. All right. So what happens when your story is on point? You craft a story that explains what you do. You go from in selling to inviting. Customers are starting to ask, hi, how can I work with you? How can I do this? And then when you put an offer in front of them, they easily sign up because that message is clear. When your branding and marketing are in alignment, it's so much easier. It is so much easier because you're no longer having to go like, oh, this. There's your story. It is your anchor. You know your client, you know the problem, and you're just going to keep creating and you're going to keep using and you're going to keep repeating. You're also going to get more referrals. Why? Because they're going to be so clear about what you do and what problem you solve. People are going to remember a story before they're going to remember a spiel. Okay. And they will have more awareness of what you do as well. So you can also just sell more. Stories sell. Stories sell. You will remember a story, right? These little metaphors, these little examples, we remember those. If I was to tell you my story, you'd be like, oh, it was motivating, it was inspiring. Oh my gosh. Like Izzy had this amazing thing and it was just so cool. I want you to hear her story, right? Or you should hear this person's story. They're similar to your story. How often do we say things like that? Again, it speaks to the inner workings of the mind. Our mind understands the concept of a story. Why? Well, we're watching Netflix all day long, we're going to the movie theater, we're reading books, and they're all doing the same steps of a story. So invite them to the story so you can grow your business. Let's do an example. Hunger Games. Has everyone saw this one? Everyone's seen the Hunger Games, or at least read the book. All right, so there's Katniss. Her problem is, right, the problem arises, right? There's this constant drawing of names, and she wants to avoid dying, her family dying, and she wants to take care of her family. She is the main provider for her family. Well, then she nominates herself so that her sister doesn't die, and she goes into this competition or into preparing for the competition, and she doesn't know what to do. So a guide has a plan. Hamish has done this before. He knows what to do and what not to do, and he's going to help guide her through this and prepare her. Then the competition happens. And again, we're posed with we win and we rejoice, and District 12 is happy, and her family has food and all of these beautiful things. And then there's the lose, which is the devastation. District 12 is going to be horrified to lose Katniss, who's providing food for so many people. Her family is going to be devastated. So, which one is she going to choose? Is she going to put the work in and win at no cost? Or, she's going to win no matter what? Or is she going to allow that devastation to happen? Right? So, here's that example. All right. So, crafting your story. So now you know all these points. What's next? Well, you're going to go through each one of those and you're going to craft your storyboard. Now, the best way is to do a little timeline, just like we had on the screen. So just make some small notes and then you can expand on it. All right. So play this out in your mind if you're a visual person. If you're not a visual person, you can write it out onto the paper to make it visual. You can also do audio speaking into the phone if you want to tell the story, and then you can craft it after that. Step two, you want to practice and refine. So when we're in draft phase, we think it sounds really good, but we need to practice it. So I really recommend practicing to children if you have some children, because if it's not exciting enough to entertain them, then it's probably not going to be exciting enough to entertain your audience. So tell it to your kids, tell it to your family, say, hey, can I tell you a story? Right? And see if it keeps them on edge, if it keeps their attention. So really making sure that you have that suspense, but also making sure you have that vulnerability. Talk about the emotions. Why should we talk about emotions? Because people buy based on feeling, especially women. We based on feeling. So we can have some logical components, but ultimately it's whether it feels right. So talk about those emotions, talk about the desires, talk about the frustration, talk about those feelings they are stuck in and those feelings that they also want to create. And then once you work that out, don't worry, you're going to keep working it out a little bit. You want to go live and practice it. And once you get those main components, you know, your story and the exact word for word might change occasionally, but if you know those key points, you're going to be able to shift the story just a little bit here and there, depending on who the audience is. All right. And then I invite you to create a webinar with your story so that you can begin practicing selling. Okay. Again, people are going to need to hear it over and over and over. So you're going to need to keep presenting this. You're going to feel like, oh my gosh, I tell this story all the time. And that is okay because people want to hear it. And it's okay if you're like, oh, it's the same audience. I know they've heard my story. Then just say, you might have heard this one before, but I'm going to go ahead and say it in case anyone that hasn't. Keep saying your story. I hear people say their stories all the time, and I just kind of like, oh yeah, I've heard it. And maybe they switched up a little bit. I'm like, oh, I didn't hear that last time. Okay. So I would like to invite you, if you feel like you can't create your story on your own, if you feel like you need a little bit of help, you need that guidance in creating that, I do have an 8-series training that I will walk you through all of this. So we'll go through decoding your customer story, look at that problem, so the problem unveiled. We'll also do the you as the trusted guide along with presenting your perfect plan. And people are like, I don't know what my plan is. It's okay. We'll talk about that. The call to action that converts, creating a success story. And then we'll also look at facilitating transformation as well. So within these 8 weeks, you're also going to get, here it is, you're going to get live training. So these are facilitated live virtually. You'll also have that opportunity to get feedback in those sessions. So these are not just me lecture, lecture, lecture. These are more workshop. We will be going back and forth. We'll get to run it over it with each other. So that's 8 sessions. You'll also get support within the Facebook group, and you'll get support within Messenger. So as you're creating, you can message me in Messenger. With the work, you'll get a workbook. So you'll get an in-depth story brand workbook. It's, gosh, I think it was like 40 pages or something like that. And then you'll get a one-on-one session with me at the end so that we can review, we can make points of edit. Sounds pretty good, right? All right. So let me come back to this. So this 8-part training actually starts next Wednesday night on May 31st. I am actually doing a fantastic price on this. So you're going to want to check in with me. So make sure that you comment underneath this video if you're interested and say, hey, what's the price on this? I'll shoot it over to you. It's definitely affordable. And if it's not affordable and you tell me I can't do that right now, that's okay. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Like, I'm here to help you. So stop wasting time chasing clients, position yourself as the expert, allow us to work together and avoid prolonging your business success. So I'm curious, how long have you been at this? Have you gotten the success that you want so far? So, you could just keep spinning in circles. You could try to figure this out yourself. And I recommend try to figure it out yourself. Try to do this tonight, tomorrow, before the end of the weekend. so that you can say, can I do this? Can I not do this? Do I need help? Do I need someone to help me look at the plan that I'm offering? Do I need someone to look at my product and say, does my product really solve this? Or this is what I have, this is who I'm marketing to. Is this a profitable audience? How can I sell this to them? Okay. And so again, we'll go through each one of these areas in depth. And you can sign up. I have this available on the Eventbrite. So that's izzynallymarketing.com. I also have this available on the page in the product section at izzynallyconsulting.com as well. All right, so different ways that you can really look at doing this. It's in video and your website, on social media, and mobile marketing as well. All right, so please let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you have any questions. And just checking to see if we have any comments. All right, so thank you so much for joining me. Again, as we dive in next week, we will go through each components of this. So we'll start with looking at your customer. I wanted to go through an overview today so that you can get an idea of what we're going to be doing. And then for the people that are already in the Million Maker Business Blueprint, go ahead and start thinking about what this story can potentially be, and be ready. Your workbook is in your folder, and we will start diving in to talking about our customer and what it is that they really want, and ironing out in a way so that we can put it in a story that is going to sell. All right, I'm Izzy Nally. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to chatting with you and getting your story branded.